Okay, so let's start out by saying no representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services of other lawyers. I'm Harry Still. I'm a retired lawyer down in Daphne, Alabama. I'm joined today by Brandon Mosley, content manager and newspaper man at the Alabama Gazette. How are you today, Brandon?
I'm doing fine, Harry. I'm enjoying day one of the special session.
And we have Juandalynn Givan back with us, and she's going to tell us all about the what I hate to call it a nothing burger, but I watched and we're looking at the screen here of the YouTube, and I said, man, that guy got up and talked a long time. No, he didn't. He's given a prayer for what, 30, 40 minutes? Anyway, didn't nobody have to go to church for a month after that prayer? And then, can you fill us in on what happened next? I mean, it looked to me like they called the session in and then said, "We'll see y'all tomorrow."
Listen, and that's what happens. Listen, we went through the formalities of gaveling in as prescribed by the Constitution of this state. Gavelled in, the bill was sponsored in House Bill 1 by Representative Pringle, and let the games now begin.
So, Brandon, can you give us an update about what necessitated the session and what we're doing and what the objective is?
Going back in time to 2020, I guess. Yeah, back to 2020, we redistricted the state with 7, that's what we had before. We had 7 Congress members, 1 Democrat, Representative Terry Sewell, and 6 Republicans. Between 2010 and 2020, the state went from like 27% black to like 28.5%.
Almost 29%.
Almost 29%. So because the percent black, as defined by the Obama administration, increased, it was determined by the federal court in Atlanta that we were supposed to get not 1, but 2 majority-minority districts, to keep up with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Well, we thought about that, and then we submitted another map in 2023, which did not meet the standards set by the court. So the court said, heck with y'all aren't doing what y'all are told to do. So they ordered a special master to draw a map that meets the court standards, since the legislature refused to in that special session. Me and Wallen and Representative Givan were both here then. And now what's happened last week, or last Tuesday, I think, the U.S. Supreme Court said that gerrymandering based on race, which a lot of people thought was prescribed by the Civil Rights Act of 1965, has suddenly become unconstitutional. Now, we were wondering, okay, so obviously, the 2023 map was 6 Republicans and 1 Democrat, but, this happened before in 1992, before Representative Givan and me were both young then. We weren't here.
Watch out, baby. I am still young, forever young.
I graduated from high school in 92, so I was pretty young.
In college. So
I graduated from college and law school.
But we were not here covering the 92 deal. But in the 92 deal, the 7th was West Alabama. And that was representative, I think it was by Claude Harrison, Democrat out of Tuscaloosa. And Congressional District 6 was Jefferson County and a big chunk of Shelby County. And that was represented by Representative Ben Erdrich, Democrat from Birmingham. Well, they were both white guys. And the court ruled that Alabama was, I think at that time, like 26% black. They were entitled to a majority minority district, and thus was born the 7th, which includes, a big chunk of the western half of the Black Belt and the city of Birmingham and Bessemer and a little bit of the surrounding area. It's basically part of Jefferson County, part of Tuscaloosa County. Now Lowndes County, goes all the way down nearly to you, Harry. I think it's got Clark County. That we were wondering this morning, were we going to revisit, since race gerrymandering based on race is illegal, but gerrymandering based on party politics and how we vote is somehow legal. Were we going to eliminate both Shamari figures from the Congress, or make it where he can't win re-election, and Terry Sewell, who's been in here since 2010? They've decided, I talked with the Speaker of the House, the plan is introduced by Representative Chris Pringle out of Mobile, is to go to that 2023 map that the court in Atlanta previously ruled violated the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which now we're not sure whether it does or not. Apparently doesn't, apparently there's something wrong with the Voting Rights Act of 1965 now. But we're not, we had today where Secretary of State Allen and Attorney General, Steve Marshall, they want to redistrict the state Senate because of a 2025 ruling. I'm told by the Speaker of the House, all we're going to do is restore the congressional map of 2023. Now, that can change when it goes into committee, but I'm being told that's where we're at. Representative Givan, did I explain that sort of halfway right?
Yeah, I was trying to unmute it. Listen, you did a pretty good job. The only thing that you did not say, Brandon, and I've got to be me when I give my commentary. I can't be anyone else. Listen, this is foolery. This is a takeover. This is a modern day lynching of the fundamental rights, of people who are in marginalized communities, people of color, to have representation in Washington, D.C. With regards to our congressional representatives. Listen, the Supreme Court ruled in the Milligan case. Alabama was ripe because of the percentile of those individuals of color here in the state of Alabama, that this state was ripe to have an opportunity zone to be created. At issue here is a true gutting, and whether or not this state will further move towards gutting the 1965 Voting Rights Act. That is the only question at the end of the day, and I don't care what anybody says. The bottom line is, if we're down here for the purpose of being prepared in case the high court removes the stay or lifts the stay, and that there will be legislation, for which I'm holding it right now, House Bill 1, that basically will say that we will be looking at the maps from 2020, the 2023 map, that was struck down by the high court, and that we would possibly be moving to give that into consideration, and therefore they want to be prepared. Tell me what that is. That's a modern day lynching of representation of people of color. And that's just what it is. Listen, my thing is, how much power do you want? And what the Republican Party is showing is that they want all power. They want every bit of power. That's been seen even at the beginning of this quadrennium of this presidency. All power. Listen, we have 29 or close to 30% people of color here in the state of Alabama. I don't need someone representing me who doesn't understand what it looks like to be Black, or what it looks like to be marginalized, or what it looks like to be hungry, or what it looks like to be in communities that do not reap the benefits of other communities that do not look like the community I live in. Who doesn't understand that when a Black man is killed at the hands of a white police officer unjustifiably, what that looks like? Who doesn't understand that I deal with kids in my neighborhood that that sometimes the only meal they get during the school year is the meal that they get at school, who doesn't understand what it looks like to have a meal and 2 or 3 snacks out the day, who doesn't know how and what it looks like to be able to go into certain places and to do certain activities because their social economic status says that they can do it. So is it a problem? Is it reality that we are here today for this foolery? Listen, it is absolutely foolery that Alabama is the first state out the chute. And as I said earlier in an interview, and I meant it, listen, at the end of the day, the bottom line is this: we're here for the purpose of a taking, and that is the taking of representation from Shamari Figures, being a congressional representative that was just elected 2 years ago to represent House District 2. Eventually, there will be a taking or an attempt to take or to narrow the boundary lines within the district of Congresswoman Terry Sewell, whether it be this year, next year, but certainly by 2030. So that's what we need to be focusing in on. How do we mitigate? How do we stop the bleed? And as I close on this note, we are here for history. This isn't just Alabama history. This is American history. Today, we are standing on the cusp of world history for what we are about to do here in the state of Alabama. Not only to do it, but to do it 2 weeks out from election day, when all of us who has opposition should be in our respective districts, because that is how we operate. The last year of the quadrennium, we come in a month earlier so we can get out and we can get amongst our constituents. Well, we're not doing that today. We are here in the Alabama House of Representatives, literally about to change the total makeup of the congressional delegation here for the state of Alabama. It's a sad day for me in Alabama, world history, and the United States history.
So Brandon, this article that you wrote, where there's been a I guess a motion, emergency order asking if we can redistrict, and further asking if we can redistrict the House Senate districts. Is that
No, it would, what we've
part of the
got
ask?
is, okay, there were, last year, the federal judge in Birmingham ruled that Montgomery was entitled to 2, what Givan calls opportunity districts, that are basically 50-50, where when the legislature redistricted it, they put about 70% of the black people in Montgomery County in a district represented by Senator Kirk Hatcher. And then all that, Pike Road and a big chunk of Elmore County and all of, the cow farmers down there in South Montgomery County were Will Barfoot's district. The court ruled that based on the Civil Rights Act of 1965, that 2020 redistricting at the state Senate was wrong. And what the Secretary of State Allen and Steve Marshall are asking for is, that case has been on appeal. They're asking for an emergency injunction, lifting the lower court's injunction on us redistricting that until 2030. All of this we're talking about now are contingencies. Here with the congressional redistricting, it's a contingency. We cannot redistrict legally until the federal court, the U.S. Supreme Court, if they step in, as the state is asking, only then can the legislature redistrict. So what we're doing is a contingency bill based on that coming. Hopefully we get some clarification from the Supreme Court before this week is out. Now, the state Senate thing, I am told we're not addressing even on a contingency basis. Now, since then, Barfoot and Hatcher have traded districts. They're each running for each other's district because Hatcher's district became slightly majority white, and Barfoot's district became slightly majority black. So Hatcher's more likely to win Barfoot's, and Barfoot has a better shot at winning Hatcher's. But we're probably looking at, based on demographics, and that, about 15% of white people in Alabama vote for Democrats. It's probably going to be Hatcher winning his race in November. And I think Tabitha Eisner is going to be the Democrat nominee.
Okay, but you're missing my point. Is, are we going to redistrict all of the Senate districts in Alabama based on population without any consideration to disparate?
No, I think what's happening is, I'm going to be honest, if you go back, Brandon, to the governor's soundbite a few months ago, when there was a push after the court's ruling on the Hatcher-Barfoot Senate seats. And for her, she wasn't going to call a special session, because at that time, how do you split the baby? Because if you do one, you injure the other. So I think that's another reason why you see the unreadiness that has rolled and carried over, even from its inception. How do you do one without hurting the other? And that's what I heard day one from the governor. She said it off her lips. And I think as a result of that, ultimately, I think that's why they are moving in this posture. Albeit, I think they're moving in this posture only temporarily until they can figure out what that master plan will be for those two districts.
So just an example of a House district. Okay, so is Thomas Jackson still alive? Is he still in the House?
Yes, Thomas Jackson is very much alive.
Okay, so in 2001, when I was in Conecuh County, he was one of our legislators that I had to go talk to if I wanted to get a local bill passed. It took me an hour and a half when I left the courthouse to get to his office in Thomasville, because his district was gerrymandered so bad that it stretched from, it was 200 miles long and 5 miles wide.
But now a lot of that is due to, whether it's a majority white or majority black counties, rural Alabama, the state as a whole is growing, but like 35 of the counties and about 20 of them seriously are in decline. So to get 55, like Greene County's got only like 6,800 people. That's not even a big suburb of Birmingham, but they're all over the place. So a lot of those rural, representatives, be they black or white, represent multiple counties. I think Wadsworth represents Winston County, Walker County, a piece of Coleman County, and a little piece of Jefferson County.
So when I got up to Etowah County, there were 3 House districts nested in Etowah County with one overlaying senator. That seemed to make a whole lot of sense to me, to nest in counties that could stand it and have a little overbleed, as opposed to this spaghetti stuff. And why wouldn't the supermajority come in after this ruling? I'm playing devil's advocate, Juandalynn. I'm not saying I'm advocating for it, but why wouldn't they come in and roll up their opponents, regardless of what color they are?
The only reason they don't do that now is 50 of the 105, of the total members, there's like 50 Republican districts that don't have a Democrat opponent.
Mm-hmm.
They're perfectly happy being reelected without having to spend any money.
Of course they are.
And a bunch of them were already reelected because they don't have a Republican opponent. There's like 35 guys. There's a bunch of Democrats too. Poor Juandalynn's got like 2 opponents, but most of the Democrats, they don't have either don't have a primary opponent, or they don't have a serious primary opponent, and they either don't have a Republican running against them, or they don't have a Republican who has a serious chance of winning their district. So, the existing legislature is sort of happy with those lines other than the Barfoot Hatcher deal in the Senate. But I was told by the Speaker of the House, this session will not address that matter.
Okay,
Now,
well, when
now,
Tuberville becomes the governor, I bet all that changes real
Okay.
fast.
word
That's the
of
point.
caution.
That's the point. No, hold on. First of all, if he becomes the governor, that's the point that I have been trying to make and speak on. The reality is what we're doing here is it's not even a band-aid. Tommy, the wound will still be open. There's no ointment. This is not even an ointment situation. If Tuberville is elected, if you will see with the most precipitous degree of movement that they will move into action immediately, and that will change. And I believe that is what Harry is about to say.
That's exactly what I was
yeah.
advocating. That I think that when he gets, based on the conversation we had with his national security director last week, who tweeted the map 2 days before the decision, by the way.
Okay.
I got a sneaking suspicion.
Morgan Murphy co-wrote an opinion in 1819 with Tuberville, which just happened as a coincidence, came out the day before the Louisiana decision, calling on the legislature to redistrict all 7 districts into 70, basically something like like the state population, 28% black, 72% Republican, or 68%. I've seen the maps. I mean, there's 2 different ones floating around.
The ruby red map.
Yeah, where it's 22% Republican advantage in all 7 districts or more.
It's beyond ruby red. So I think that at the end of the day, guess what? This here, and I don't care what whoever says what, it's another attempt to create a ruse in the eyes of the people to make it appear, no, we're not, it's temporary. And then he don't control nothing anyway. We all know whatever come from Washington or from Tuberville or even the Senate, with the folks in this chamber are going to fall in line because we have a weak House and a stronger Senate now, and we've never recaptured that since the day that Mike Hubbard left. Period.
And as we said, the last time we had you on, the reason we had you on was the Speaker of the House is running around with a bunch of gambling money, handing it to Democrats to run somebody against you.
Listen, let me just tell you something. So he is so raggedy to me. Listen, no respect. There was nothing left after I started going through those reports. I had already had an indication prior to the session ending. I think it's a bad look for him regardless of what, as the speaker. First of all, Steve Raby is not going to move one dime toward a Democrat unless he is given permission to do so. So I think that's a bad look for the Republican Party that you have a speaker who would dare assist in conjunction in an effort to get rid of me that would raise money for Democrats or to give to my opponent over and over and over from the North Alabama PAC, which is led and signed. The signature on that PAC is Steve Raby. And everybody knows down here, he's not going to make a move without having something from on high. So, once that article was written and I saw it, I received calls from a whole lot of people. And what I don't think anybody really said as it relates to this particular issue, it was all consistent. I don't care who you are. First of all, it's against what I consider you all's Republican principles. But you have a sitting speaker who is trying to get me out of office.
Former Democrat, and let's be real clear about that, as an OG Republican from way down here on the coast. When I see these people in leadership positions after they've been in leadership in the other party, it burns me up.
He was never in leadership in the other party. He ran as a Democrat in 2010, but lost and then switched parties and ran in 2014.
And then switched parties. So the bottom line is I mean, when I realized it, and when folks started reaching out and they started sending me the documentation, I said, listen, I was done. At the first of this quadrennium, there were people that reached out to me, reporters. They wanted me to slam him. I did not do it. I don't get, and I said these words even to him. I don't get in the middle of white folk stuff. I don't get in the middle of Republican stuff. I don't do that. That's not my business. And I wouldn't be a part of that. I'm the same person who would have, hey, go up to him and say, listen, you don't sound good as you're reading. I want you to sound articulate. You need to have somebody to prepare you a script. So at the end of the day, it's just been one of those things. And some relationships just don't work. And I'm good with that one way or the other, whether I win or lose. That's a level of respect that I could not have for him in any kind of way.
Okay.
To do it like that, I don't think that I deserve to be done like that. And he never should have gotten himself or been put in a position by anyone. He allowed my bills to be killed this year. I've had, I think, 5 bills that were moved through committee, great bills. Listen, you allow a bill that will address our children. You allow certain bills to just be killed, and you did nothing, and you are the speaker, that you allowed yourself to be in the middle of a battle between myself and others. That just wasn't cool to me. I think it was tacky. I think it was just disgraceful. And I think it makes the Republican Party look even worse.
Okay. So look, this whole thing with my question to the two of you, if there's been a detente and we're going back to the 2023 maps, why is Steve Marshall filing this shit? Why is Steve Marshall filing this?
I have a word of warning on that. I have lived this before. If you were, of course, Representative Sewell was, anybody was following the 2023 special session remembers this began exactly like that began. Chris Pringle came out with a bill, and it was not what the court ordered, but it was like a 40% black bill. It was something he thought it would keep Mobile and Baldwin together, and it wouldn't have split the wiregrass. But it would have been a whole lot more majority than than the 2020 map we had. But he introduced it, and Senator Steve Livingston introduced the same bill in the Senate on day one. Then things got in committee, and then on committee, Livingston introduced a much more partisan, much more Republican bill. The Pringle bill passed the House. The Livingston map passed the Senate. And then when the Pringle map got to the Senate, Livingston moved to permanently table the Pringle bill. And it was ultimately the Livingston bill that became that 2023 map we're about to adopt. My word of warning is that, yes, we have this Pringle bill, and all it does is take us back to 2023 and restore that old Livingston map. Chris Elliott is carrying this thing in the Senate. Now, I'm friends with Elliott. I respect Chris Elliott. There may not be a more partisan Republican in the Senate than Chris Elliott. We're relying on Chris Elliott doesn't do to the Pringle bill what his colleague, Senator Livingston, did to the Pringle bill in 2023.
Well, anybody that trusts Chris Elliott gets what they deserve. I'll say that, having sued him multiple times.
Let me say this. And this is my thought on it. I tend to this time, Brandon, lean more toward Harry. I think there's more to come. The question is when it comes and who brings it and what it will be when it lands.
Is he just grandstanding, or does he actually want to move this forward so we can redistrict everything?
I think that eventually it's going to be where we will redistrict everything. I bet you $500 to a bucket of crap. I've been saying that. That's why I stay in my own zone, my own lane. And the reason I say that is just no way. If they're looking at the possibility of being able to usurp all of the power, let me tell you what we're going to eventually see. And I don't care what anybody says.
Weather underground.
The weakest district out of the 7 that is ripe for takeover is District 2, Gary Palmer's seat.
But that's District 6.
I mean, I'm sorry. District 6. I apologize. District 6. District 2 is Shamari. Let's put that district to the side. District 2. Let's put 7 to the side temporarily. Just follow me on this. Gary Palmer's seat sits in central Alabama, in Jefferson County, which is the bluest county in the state of Alabama. If you're a Republican in Jefferson, you ain't winning nothing, number one. At issue is whether or not, because they've got to look at the construct, because when they roll out a map for all 7, it's going to have to be done as strategically as possible. Why do I say that? I say that because they're going to have to figure out a way to draw these lines that no Democrat has an opportunity in any way to circumvent or to come in to be able to possibly beat one of them. The weakest link in the chain is District 6, Palmer. Why? Because you have Jefferson County, then you have the Democrats from that Shelby County area, and it's the mix of his district and the way it sits. So they've got to come back, and that's why we're going to circle back to the Livingston plan, the original Livingston plan. Follow me on this, Harry and Brandon. Now, if you take that Livingston plan, you're going to look at where they were already looking at bringing Adderholt closer south, more south, and then also Rogers. The question becomes who goes further back toward the east and who do they bring in closer so they can encamp around District 6 that they can make it a stronger Republican district. I think when they figure that out, if it be this time around or in January, if Tommy Tubbyville gets to be governor, if TT gets to be governor, you will see that map move.
Okay, but what's unfair? What's unfair about equally dividing the state into 7 representative districts based on population, and we don't worry about whose seat it is? I'm so sick of that stuff. Gary Palmer's seat or whatever.
People are voting. They're voting on the name. They are voting on the person. There's no way you can separate the two.
I can because it's going to be D1 through D7, and it's going to be just random.
Not as savvy as you are to do that, and that is why we go to the polls for every 4 years or every 6 years to vote on those individuals for Congress and for the United States House of Representatives every 2 years rather, and of course for the United States Senate, and then of course for the House seats. The realization is you're voting on the person, and it's difficult to say you're going to have a map that's drawn just based upon the population and wherever it lands, it lands. No,
well, that's how it's supposed to be. But we've witchcrafted into this gerrymandering in districts where we can't get rid of Chris Elliott. We had to make his district run from the Eastern Shore all the way to Pensacola, Florida.
Nothing in this country is the way it's supposed to be. We have a declaration that all men are created equal, and
it doesn't say anything about you get special treatment. That's what this whole decision's about.
But if it was fair from the beginning, we wouldn't be here because we would have been treated equally. Now you know that's not a subject that me
But-
and you need to go down in the rabbit hole on, because at the end of the day, Black people have never been treated equally, and we have always been considered in those that are marginalized or less than. That's the reality. That's why when Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, folks went for 2.5 years and didn't even know they were free. That's why the Civil War was fought, because people in the South wanted to keep Black folks as slaves. Now, I mean, we just have to talk straight and real talk on this issue right here.
But now,
Unfortunately, we live in a society in which sometimes it's never going to be about the color of your skin, the content of your character. And we can all make the argument however we choose to. But the reality is, Republicans don't want to be led by Black folks, and certainly not Black folks that are not Republican. Case in point, when we were moving these maps last year or 2 years ago, there was a member of the House of Representatives that is from the Jefferson County delegation that all but stood up here and said that they did not want Congresswoman Terry Sewell representing their fine area in between Mount Brook and Vestavia. Now, I didn't say it. He said it. And he carried more bills this session than he's ever carried. So that's just the reality of where we are. Let's call the thing as it is. The white people in this state
But
don't
now,
want to care about
Representative Givan, I just helped the first Black man become mayor of Bay Minette, Alabama, and I helped him defeat my old law partner.
You may be the exception.
I'm talking to.
But you
But
may
now,
be the
Representative
exception, Terry,
Givan-
but there are not enough Harrys, unfortunately, my friend, in the state of Alabama. And the thing, Harry, we have to deal with and we grapple with is that the reality is, it is the reality. And unfortunately, there were many white people who helped during the movement. I'm not going to ever say there was not, but was there enough? So the question
wait a minute. Representative Givan, the Republicans in Tuberville, we had Morgan Murphy on, they would argue 7 Republican districts in a state that votes 69 to 71% Republican is completely fair, because if you go to Massachusetts, they vote 55 to 59% Democrat. And yet that 41% of Massachusetts Republicans don't have a single congressman. Those districts are all gerrymandered so that a Democrat wins every one of them. And then Virginia just gerrymandered their deal, even though they're 48% Republican, where, there will be one Republican district that's like 90% Republican, and then 10 districts that are Democrats. And, that's political gerrymandering. All they're arguing is, yes, we're going to draw a map that is 70% Republican and 30% Democrat. Not necessarily Black, although in Alabama, you can look at someone with about 83% accuracy and know how they vote. But, still, I mean, they want to limit the power of white Democrats as much as they want to limit the power of Black Democrats. It's, I don't want to say it's not completely racial, but they would argue it's not racial. It's just political gerrymandering.
You can say what you want to say, however you want to flip the coin. At the end of the day, listen, they want all Democrats gone, but they certainly don't want a Black Democrat. I don't care how you look at it. Now, listen, the op-ed that I ran, take a look at it, Harry. If you've not seen it, it's in the Gazette.
I will.
Take a look at it.
It is up at Alabama Gazette.
It's in the Alabama Gazette. Take a look at it. I think it summed it up. And it's just simply, they not like us. But at the end of the day, I say, I'm not like them. So the bottom line is, this is uncharted territory. Listen, I see Tennessee goes into their special session starting tomorrow. So I'm assuming this is moving all across the country on a fast track. I know Donald Trump is making calls every which way but loose. And so I think the ultimate outcome of this is going to be whatever he says from on up there. in Washington will be the law of the land, and that's how we will move. I'm just here we were just here last week, and the governor said she wasn't gonna do nothing, and she thought everything was hunky-dory, and it was gonna stay like it was, and up until Friday afternoon when she said, I'm rolling out a proclamation, and y'all get to work on Monday.
Yeah, we went from we're not doing shit to running the luge
That
head first as fast as we could go. Absolutely.
And Harry, that's why we keep trying to tell our friend Brandon, I've been down here too long, Brandon. I'm too old of a cat to be tricked by a kitten. If it's not during this session, it will be in January, honey. Okay, now.
Go ahead, Brandon.
The fight is going to be in 2030 because by my understanding,
that fight don't come before 2030. It will be 2030. They will be prepared. It will already be done. They are not going to wait to 2030 to draw these maps, Brandon. I'm telling you.
I'm saying the fight in 2030 isn't going to be over whether District 7 is represented by a black woman Democrat or a, Republican. I think the real fight, if by my understanding of the Louisiana decision, if you take that to its extreme, you go back and you revisit the 1982 decision that dictated that I think there's 27 minority districts, including Representative Givan's, and what is it, 8, maybe going on 9 minority Senate districts in the Senate. I mean, you can't do 105 white Republican districts, but you could darn sure pack enough.
You can cut it down.
Pack enough Democrats in about 14 districts where, there could be 90 Republicans elected in 2030.
I think, and that's what's going to happen. I said it best, and I believe when this quadrennium starts in 2030, I believe there may be no more than, if we have 10 to 15 Democrats, it will surprise me. I really think that.
Because I don't want to scare anybody, but if you walk around this building, you can see, all the posters of past state senates and past state, House of Representatives. There's a bunch of posters on the wall that aren't that old. That's all white.
Harry, listen.
Now, they were all Democrats, but
you must be reading my thoughts. How many people have I said that to since Friday? I said, y'all better go look on that wall, and we're going to go back to those days. You remember the ones on the wall that's in black and white?
Yeah.
Okay, y'all go on back. Listen, I can still remember when Bobby McDowell, God rest her soul, back in the day. I said, y'all better go and look at those. Yeah, I told somebody, I said, I don't know if they have taken them down, but go look at that wall. So folks can sit around here with all of this hee-haw and stuff, and I don't believe anything that the speaker says. I wouldn't believe nothing that he says if I was sitting up looking at him, and period, nothing.
And, the Senate has a habit of hijacking stuff that comes out of the House. Not accusing anybody of anything, but this has happened before in this building.
I don't know where the surprise is going to come from, but I'm waiting. But again, if it be the Lord's will and I can win this seat back in 2 weeks, I am going to be sent back with a big old bucket of popcorn waiting on January to come.
Yeah. So,
let me on another quick little short topic. I went to your office to see if you were there, and it looked like they've already about half packed up your office, and almost everything's gone in there.
Office, everybody's office. We have to be out in a few. Everybody has to be out in a few days.
Yeah, that was my
question. Y'all even have your office stuff. It's like, okay.
Yeah, not only my office, that's why a lot of us are just kind of moving about, and that's why I had to do the interview in here. But we only have a few days to get the stuff out anyway. But let me just tell you to shout out Alton Calhoun. He ended up, he's been here in facilities many years, and he's been helping some of us get our stuff. So he made a first round last week, I think it was. He moved my stuff. Laura Hall and Barbara Boyd and maybe somebody else. So rented a U-Haul, and he went around the state and dropped our loads off, because we have to take everything out. And if you're going back to the new building, you can't take anything, because that building is really owned by RSA, and they don't want any. They're trying to do as much as they can to eliminate the mold spurs throughout the building.
Okay, so here's my question: was this in the old State House or in the new State House? It looks like the old State House.
Yeah, we're still the old State House.
The old State
That's
House.
what I'm saying.
Now,
They
Harry,
took all the Givan stuff out of her office.
Harry, we are not in the new State House yet. Come on, it's going to be so much pomp and circumstance around that.
I mean, they're still putting the roof on that building. What do we do if Donald Trump comes back and tells the governor in July that we need to do another special session?
They're going to do
where are we going to meet? I mean, is it going to be in here with no furniture?
It'll have to be in here, because everybody was alarmed Friday, because they had already started dismantling the Senate chambers upstairs. So they had to go back in. Listen, let me show y'all. I want to show y'all, if I can turn this around. Let me show y'all that. Y'all see that? Can you see that, Harry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what they took. They had already taken our monikers and our name tags off of our desk, so in the chamber. So that's show you they didn't expect for us to have to come back in here. So we have paper name tags on the desk, the sticky notes, those sticky pads.
Well, I'm going to say one last thing, and I hope it's not any kind of prognostication, but I do have a degree in political science from Auburn University, and there's never been a shift in power like this where there hasn't been some kind of violent reaction. I hope we don't see that kind of thing, but,
we're not calling anybody to violence.
It's Harry. It is going to be packed as hell tomorrow. It was packed. Tell him, Brandon, today.
There was a lot. They were still protesting, so I rushed in here to get in here before the crowd got into the building.
Tomorrow is the day. Congresswoman Sewell will be here. I think Shamari Figures will be here. Folks are coming from all across the state, members of the Divine Nine. So it's going to be big tomorrow. It's going to be huge.
Okay, well, let's just hope that everybody keeps their cool.
Well, I know I've talked with a couple of the state troopers. So, and Hal runs a tight, Hal Taylor runs a tight shop. So I think they are preparing for tomorrow, is my understanding. They're not going to give all the details, but I do suspect security will be high tomorrow here in and around.
I would imagine.
We opened up talking about the historic significance of this moment, and I'll say this tomorrow. And for me, I will say, as I came in today, I was very emotional. I became very emotional Friday because I am a person of color. I can still remember the stories that my grandmother would tell. There was a house outside of our family home. And in the house next door, the tree is still there. It's a huge tree. But the significance of that tree is that's a tree that a Black man was once lynched from. And growing up, we would always use that tree as a marker. And it's the house right next door. And my grandmother would often tell me the stories of old. And she would always tell me also where she was the day that the 16th Street Baptist Church was bombed. I know two of the sisters of Denise McNair. I knew Denise McNair's father and her mother. I still remember when Miss Maxine said that Sunday, and she went to the hospital, and she was trying to get to the morgue, and she ran into the hospital, and all she could and people could hear her saying is, "That's my baby. That's my child." So for me, it's sentimental because there were so many lives lost, innocent lives lost, just so I could be able to sit and to walk the halls of this building and to sit in the seat that I sit in, so it doesn't go unnoticed or lost on me. So with that being said, it means a lot to me to have this opportunity to share it, whether people care or not. This is probably one of the most historic pieces of legislation that will go down in the scrolls and the history of the state of Alabama. Very, very historic. Not just Alabama history, not just the United States history, but we will make world history. And that's something to know.
Thanks so much for being on, Representative Givan.
I appreciate you. Thank you all. See you later, Harry.
There's a badge that shines like a halo in the sun, but it hides what's done when the day is done. Sheriff rides high on a promise he sold, but his truth's been bought and his soul's been told. He don't walk alone down the courthouse hall, got shadows that move when he makes a call. A whisper here, a favor there, and suddenly justice ain't nowhere. You can hear it humming underneath the streets where power and silence meet. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. If you stand in the way, you'll disappear clean. Ain't no fighting back when you face their machine. Got henchmen lined like dominoes in a row. They don't ask why, they just do as they told. A nod from the top and a life gets crushed. Another voice buried, another file hushed. They wear the loyalty like a second skin, trading their conscience just to fit in. Break a man down, call it law and order, build their empire at the county border. Every favorite road is a chain that binds, every truth buried buys more time. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. If you stand in the way, you'll disappear clean. Ain't no fighting back when you face their machine. District attorney signs with a steady hand, but the ink's been stained by a deeper plan. Senators smile from the polished stage while they burned your ass alive on the front page. The county seats filled with familiar names, all tied together in a quiet game. Handshakes tighter than a noose can be, wrapped in power and immunity. And the good folks cry, but no one hears. The truth gets lost in a flood of years, dragged through the mud till they break a bend, till the story twists and the lies all win. They'll take your name, they'll take your breath, dress it up nice and call it justice served to death. It's not one man, it's a web they weave, a thousand hands that deceive, and every thread leads back again to the same old circle of friends. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. If you speak too loud, if you seem too clean, they'll grind you down in that cold machine. Still shines in the morning light, and the town sleeps easy every night. But beneath it all, where the truth's unseen, there's a whole damn world run by that machine.